Star Wars 7 by 7 episode 2483. Since we have started talking about Thrawn, I thought it might be interesting to delve into his character a little bit, and in particular today, his deployment in Star Wars storytelling in this new canon, because it's rather fascinating the way it's been done, and it calls to mind a scene from The Dark Knight, the Batman movie with Christopher Nolan, or done by Christopher Nolan, with Christian Bale and Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, and let me just explain. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So, Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good, the novel that we just talked about yesterday in our non-spoiler review, thought it would be worth spending a little time with Thrawn because, this novel is actually kind of the fifth novel in a row in a series of things that turns an iconic bit of conversation on its head. And the iconic bit of conversation I'm thinking of happens in The Dark Knight. It's the second movie in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. And there's a scene in that movie where Harvey Dent and Rachel Dawes, played by Aaron Eckhart and Maggie Gyllenhaal, are having dinner, and Bruce Wayne crashes the dinner with the prima ballerina from the Russian ballet that's in town and gets them to have an impromptu double date. And the bit of conversation I'm thinking of is when Aaron Eckhart's Harvey Dent delivers the line that you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that, of course, really hits home with Bruce Wayne, but it kind of hit home with me too as I've been thinking about Thrawn, because it's exactly the opposite with him, at least as far as you and I are viewing him, because he started out as a villain in Heir to the Empire in 1991 when he first debuted, when the expanded universe was rebooted, if you will. Rebooted in the sense that more stuff would be coming out, not rebooted as in getting rid of stuff that happened previously. But there was an expanded universe, of course, prior to Heir to the Empire. Stories like Splinter of the Mind's Eye and the Han Solo trilogy, the Lando Calrissian trilogy, etc., etc. But Thrawn started out as a villain, and specifically a different type of villain from the kinds of villains that the rebels were used to seeing, basically. Somebody who was a highly competent military officer as opposed to the biggest threats being Force users. And that's how he was all the way through the rest of that old expanded universe. And then comes 2014 and the rebooting of the canon for real, making everything else legends, and Thrawn goes away until he is brought into Star Wars Rebels and he becomes a foil for the Ghost Crew to fight against, and he is restored as a villain himself. But from there, they say, hey, let's get Thrawn back into the novel situation. And so starts Star Wars Thrawn and Star Wars Thrawn Alliances and Star Wars Thrawn Treason, and that trilogy is over, and now we're in this new trilogy. But what's happened is that Thrawn either died a villain or lived long enough to see himself become the hero. Because that's what these novels, these 4 novels and then Greater Good about to come out next week, these 5 novels, that's what they've actually done, is they've portrayed Thrawn as the hero in the story, and in some cases what they've done is made him heroic by pitting him against characters and species and other bad actors who are even worse than potentially he would be if left to his own devices. So, whereas on the one hand, you might think of him as a Sherlockian kind of character, really he probably has more in common with, say, the Hannibal Lecters of The Silence of the Lambs, or Dexter from that Showtime TV series Dexter, about the guy who was a serial killer or was going to be heading toward being a serial killer, but his father recognized it and instead trained him to be a hunter of serial killers. And so this guy who's, ostensibly a good guy, but is doing very vigilante-like bad things and killing serial killers. This is essentially what they are doing to Thrawn in the new canon timeline. I mean, maybe not necessarily making him a hunter of serial killers, but you kind of get the idea. I mean, he is hunting down pirates, he's hunting down species that are deciding to, conquer territories and lay waste and create devastation and, trying to eradicate other species themselves. Like, yeah, this is, bad stuff that's happening, and Thrawn has always been, or at least from the start, has been positioned as a bad actor, as a villain, but yet he is now being positioned in the storytelling as somebody who is doing good, even, when, there are others who are doing even worse, basically. And it seems that there is an appetite for this. I'm constantly shocked anytime Darth Vader wins a poll overall, but we were talking earlier this year about the minifigure madness poll that the Lego group ran, and Darth Vader won that thing. So yeah, he went up against Yoda and he beat him, for pity's sake. So it's kind of shocking, but Grand Admiral Thrawn has never been in one of those March Madness type of things, I don't think. He certainly wasn't in the minifigure one. And so, you wonder how well he would do, but he's apparently extremely popular on the novel front, because here we are, going to be 6 novels in with Thrawn in the new canon, and nobody has even come close from a character perspective. I mean, yes, you could say that, certain characters like Luke and Han and Leia have appeared in multiple novels and probably have appeared in as many novels as Thrawn has at this point, but certainly not headlining their own novels. I mean, Leia headlined Leia, Princess of Alderaan and Bloodline, and there's another one of the Journey to the Force Awakens books also. But yeah, I mean, none of even the original trilogy heroes are getting the same kind of play that Thrawn gets. And I think maybe just, speaking personally, that might be why I've been having a bit of a challenge with my welcoming of Thrawn as a character in these novels, if you will, because, he is supposed to be a villain. He is supposed to be there for the heroes to overcome, and we are not at a point where we have any heroes playing in any of these novels that are meant to overcome Thrawn. But it's going to have to flip eventually, because they still have to tell us what happened with Ezra and Thrawn at the end of Star Wars Rebels. So hopefully that day will come, but it's probably not going to be in the final novel in this trilogy, Lesser Evil, and it certainly isn't in Greater Good. I mean, that's not spoiling anything for you at all, but yeah, hopefully we will get back to that at some point in the near future. But for now, that is going to do it for our conversation about Thrawn either dying a villain or living long enough to see himself become the hero, as it were. And that's going to do it for this episode of the show as well. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it as always, and may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.